They painted you as weak, fragile, a cracked mirror reflecting their twisted little smiles. They never saw the fire smoldering beneath the surface, did they? No, they were too busy watching you break, snap, crumble. They thought they had you figured out. Look at them, helpless, broken, beyond repair. But they don't understand one thing about broken things. Sharp edges cut the deepest. They played their game well, used every dirty trick in the book. Betrayal dripped from their tongues like venom, and manipulation was their weapon of choice. They wore masks, friends, family, mentors, lovers. But the masks never fooled you, not really. You saw the glint of the blade before they ever drove it into your back. And the worst part? You let them. You stood there, arms open wide, welcoming the pain. Because a small part of you believed you deserved it. Oh, they loved that, didn't they? Loved the power they held over you. The way they could twist you with a word, a glance. How they could reduce you to dust with a single whisper of doubt. But you learned something they didn't expect. Pain isn't a prison, it's a forge. Every blow they landed on you only strengthened the steel beneath your skin. Every scar, a testament to your survival. They thought they were molding a victim. They were really creating a weapon. And now, here you stand. Not as they left you, broken and bleeding, but reborn, hardened, deadlier. You didn't just survive, you adapted. You became something more, something they don't recognize, and that's their first mistake. You see, they still think you're the same person, the one who bowed, who begged, who cried out for mercy that never came. They can't see the monster lurking beneath the surface, but they will. It's funny, isn't it? How they never saw this coming. They thought they could chain you to your past, trap you in the pain they inflicted. But you slipped through their fingers, transformed. Every insult, every betrayal, every act of cruelty, they're all locked away inside you now, festering, waiting for the right moment. And when that moment comes, you won't hesitate. They'll see their own reflection in the eyes of their executioner. This isn't about vengeance. No, vengeance is petty. This is about balance, about restoring what they shattered. They wanted you powerless, helpless, but they made the fatal error of teaching you their methods. You learned from the best manipulators, the most skilled betrayers, and now those lessons will be turned against them. They taught you to be ruthless, to be merciless, and soon they'll taste the bitter fruit of their own making. There's a darkness inside you now, a darkness they created. It's not something to be feared, it's your greatest ally. It whispers truths in your ear, truths you can't ignore. It tells you that the time for suffering is over, that the chains have been broken, that you are no longer prey, but predator. They set this darkness loose when they betrayed you. And now, they'll choke on it. They'll try to run. Oh, they'll beg for the very mercy they denied you. But mercy? That's not in your nature anymore. They took that from you, stripped you of your kindness, your compassion, your empathy. And in its place, they left something raw, something unforgiving. The part of you that once cared, it's gone. And all that remains is the hunger to make them feel what you felt, to make them taste their own poison. But you won't rush this. No, rushing is for fools. You've waited this long, endured this much. You can wait a little longer. You'll watch. You'll wait. You'll let them build their castles of lies a little higher. And when they're standing at the very peak of their delusions, thinking they're untouchable. That's when you'll strike. The higher they climb, the harder they'll fall. And you'll be the one watching as they hit the ground. They think they've won. That's the beauty of it. They're so blinded by their own arrogance, they can't see the storm gathering behind your eyes. But it's there. Oh, it's there. And it's not just a storm. It's a reckoning. You are the fury they unleashed, the chaos they tried to control, the darkness they thought they could contain. And now, it's all slipping through their fingers like sand. Every cruel word, every betrayal, every injustice, it's all led to this moment. They lit the spark, and now the fire will consume them. They'll see the flames reflected in your eyes, but by then, it will be too late. They'll know what you've become, and they'll know they were the ones who made you this way. There's no redemption here, no apologies, no second chances. You gave them that once, long ago, when you still believed in forgiveness. But forgiveness died the day they turned on you. And in its place, something darker was born. You don't want apologies. You want justice. Cold, brutal, absolute. They'll feel the weight of their choices soon enough. Every sin, every act of cruelty, it's all coming back to them. You are their reckoning, the embodiment of every wrong they thought they got away with. They'll realize too late that their actions had consequences. And those consequences, they wear your face. No one escapes their past. Not really. They thought they could bury their sins, hide behind their lies. But the past doesn't stay buried. It rises, it hunts, and it never forgets. You are living proof of that. They created you. And now, they'll have to face what they've made. This isn't just retribution, it's evolution. You didn't just survive their cruelty, you thrived on it. Every wound they inflicted made you stronger. Every betrayal, a stepping stone to something greater. They thought they were breaking you, but in reality, they were sharpening you. And now, you're the blade at their throats. The time is near. You feel it, don't you? The storm building inside you, the darkness rising to the surface. They won't see it coming. They'll be too busy basking in their illusions of control. But when the storm hits, there will be no escape, no shelter, no mercy. They've grown comfortable, haven't they? Wrapped in their own web of deception, lounging on a throne built from your broken pieces. They sit there, smug, bloated on the spoils of your suffering. But comfort breeds carelessness, and in carelessness, their power will slip. They won't even notice it happening. Like rot seeping through wood, their empire is crumbling from the inside out. And the rot, that's you. You're not just the aftermath of their betrayal. You're the consequence they didn't plan for. Every injustice they thought would disappear with time has carved itself into you, etched into your very bones. They can't see it, but you've become something else entirely, something relentless. They built this version of you, brick by agonizing brick, and now those same bricks will become their tombstones. See, predators always assume their prey will cower forever. They live off the illusion of control. But control is fragile. One crack, one unexpected turn, and the illusion shatters. And when that happens, all that's left is fear. It starts small, almost imperceptible, the tightening of the chest, the flicker of doubt. But it spreads like wildfire. And you'll be the flame at the heart of their terror. They think they understand fear. They used it as a weapon against you, after all. But there's a crucial difference. The fear they used was external. Words, actions, threats, temporary. The fear you'll bring is internal. It won't just bruise their ego. It will haunt their thoughts, seep into their dreams, wrap itself around their minds like a vice. They will learn what it means to be hunted by their own creation. They'll start to feel it soon, if they haven't already. That uneasy sensation that something isn't quite right. A shadow moving just beyond their peripheral vision. An echo of a footstep that vanishes when they turn. That's not paranoia. It's reality creeping in. You've shifted the balance, and they're too blind to see it. But they will. Power was their drug of choice. They got drunk on it, high on the rush of controlling you. But all addictions have a price, and withdrawal is brutal. Once the power starts slipping through their grasp, they'll descend into chaos. Watch how quickly their confidence turns to desperation, how they scramble to regain control, clawing at every illusion they once held dear. And you'll be there, watching, patient, detached, because you already know the ending. The chains they used to bind you, they're gone, snapped under the weight of your evolution. And the best part? They didn't even realize you were free until it was too late. You've shed the skin of who you once were. You're unrecognizable now, a force that cannot be contained. No apologies, no explanations, just cold, undeniable reality. They made a fatal error. They underestimated the value of silence. You didn't lash out when they betrayed you. You didn't scream when they tore you down. Instead, you learned, studied, internalized every tactic they used. They taught you the art of deception, and now you're a master at it. You move like smoke, unseen, unpredictable, and impossible to capture. Every empire has its fault lines, no matter how invincible it seems, and theirs is no different. You know where to press, where to apply just enough pressure to bring it all crumbling down. Their greatest weakness? Their pride. It blinds them, makes them reckless. They won't even see the knife until it's buried in their back. The same knife they once used on you. Revenge is too simple a word for what's coming. This isn't about payback. It's about reclamation. Taking back everything they stole. The dignity, the peace, the hope. Piece by piece, you'll reclaim what's yours, and they'll be left with nothing but regret. A hollow shell of what they once were. Forced to face the void they created. There's a calmness in you now. Not the calm of surrender, but the calm before the storm. It's the stillness that comes just before everything is torn apart. You've made peace with your darkness. It no longer controls you. It empowers you. And that makes you unstoppable. They can't manipulate what no longer feels guilt. They can't break what's already been reforged. They won't understand what's happening at first. They'll grasp at old tactics, trying to play the same games that worked before. But this time, they'll find nothing. No reaction, no weakness, just a wall of impenetrable steel. And when they finally realize the game is over, that's when their world will collapse. People like them rely on cycles. Hurt, control, hurt again. But you've broken the cycle. You refuse to stay in the role they assign to you. And that refusal is a death sentence for their power. They don't know how to exist without control. Without it, they're nothing but scared children pretending to be kings. Let them flounder. Let them scream. None of it matters now. The power dynamic has shifted permanently, and there's no going back. They can't unmake what they've created. They can't undo the damage that's already been done. and they certainly can't stop what's coming. Your transformation is complete. You're no longer a victim. You're not even just a survivor. You are the reckoning. Every choice they made led them here. Every lie, every betrayal, every act of cruelty, it all brought them to this moment. And now, they'll pay the price. You won't need to lift a finger. Their own fear will do the work for you. Fear of what you've become. Fear of the darkness they thought they controlled. Fear of the reckoning that's closing in. They'll destroy themselves from within, trying to escape what's already inevitable. There's no escape, no redemption, no way out. They wrote the ending to this story the moment they betrayed you. And now, that ending is here. Every breath they take is borrowed time. Every step they take is one step closer to the collapse. And you'll be the shadow they can't escape. They always believed they were invincible. Their throne made of lies, their empire built on stolen trust. But every fortress has its cracks. And now, those cracks are splitting wide open, swallowing their arrogance whole. There is no refuge for those who once ruled with cruelty. No safe corner, no locked door that can keep out the storm that's already inside. They wanted power? Now they'll understand its cost. Because power doesn't protect, it isolates. They thought their control would make them untouchable, but in reality, it made them vulnerable. Vulnerable to the truth they buried. Vulnerable to the echoes of the past they thought they had erased. And most of all, vulnerable to you, the one they never accounted for. You've become more than they ever feared. Not just relentless, you're inevitable. You're not walking into their downfall. You are their downfall. Every step you take is a countdown. Every breath they draw is one closer to the reckoning that cannot be delayed. They'll hear it in the silence, the weight, the waiting. It's crushing, suffocating, and there's no one to save them. Not anymore. They'll try to run. That's what all cowards do when the curtain falls. But they won't get far. Their own mind is now the prison. Every lie they told will haunt them. Every betrayal they committed will echo in their skull, like a song they can't shut off. And every time they close their eyes, they'll see you standing in the darkness, waiting. Because the truth is simple. You don't need to chase them. They'll collapse under the weight of their own sins. Do you feel that shift in the air? That's the end they tried to deny, tightening its grip. It's poetic, really. The ones who reveled in your suffering, who laughed at your pain, they're the ones crumbling now. Their walls are thin paper, their pride a fragile mask. And now that mask has shattered, revealing something small, something weak. They were never as powerful as they pretended to be. Power built on destruction is always borrowed, and they've run out of time to pay the price. You see it in their eyes, don't you? That flicker of panic, the dawning realization that there's nothing left for them to cling to. It's not just defeat, it's fear. True, unyielding fear, the kind that paralyzes, the kind that breaks. You once begged for peace, for fairness, for mercy. But mercy is not in the cards anymore. There is no fairness in this world, only balance. And now that balance has swung, what once crushed you beneath its weight now shifts to them. They don't get to rewrite the past. They don't get to rewrite you. They'll try to speak, of course. They'll plead, offer excuses. But those words are empty now. Hollow echoes of manipulation that no longer have the power to cut. Let them talk. Let them drown in their own desperation. Because the time for listening is over. You were the stone they cast aside, unwanted, useless. But what they didn't realize was that the pressure, the weight they placed on you, turned you into something unstoppable. A blade forged in fire, razor sharp, cold, untouchable. And now, that blade hovers over everything they built. This isn't about vengeance, it never was. It's about becoming what you were always meant to be, about rising from the ashes they tried to leave behind. You were their victim once, but victims are only victims until they refuse to be, until they decide to become something more. And now you've become exactly that, more. There's a beauty in destruction, not the chaos of it, but the creation it leaves behind. You've torn down the illusions. You've dismantled every lie they used to cage you. And in the wreckage, you've built something unbreakable. Yourself. No more begging. No more hoping for change. Now, you are the change. They'll see it clearly now. You were never the pawn they could control. You were the storm that was always coming. And they should have known better than to try and stop a storm. Because storms don't stop. They don't listen. They consume. And in their wake, nothing is ever the same. Their world has shrunk down to this moment. No allies, no escape. Just the weight of everything they tried to deny, pressing down with a force they can't resist. You are their consequence. Not a punishment, not an executioner. Just truth made manifest, truth that will not be ignored. Look at what they've become, fractured, hopeless. Everything they once were, gone. And in their place, nothing but regret. You don't need to raise a hand. They're already destroying themselves, tearing apart the foundations they thought were solid. Foundations built on lies never hold. And you stand above the wreckage, whole, stronger than they ever wanted you to be. They wanted your silence, your submission. Instead, you gave them evolution. They wanted control. Instead, you became free. This isn't just an ending, it's a beginning. They'll spend every day haunted by what they tried to do. And you'll spend every day knowing you won. Because surviving isn't enough. Rising beyond what they ever imagined is your true triumph. And so, their story ends. Not with the power they craved, not with the dominance they once wielded, but with emptiness, with shadows, with silence. The silence of the one who refused to break. You never needed their permission. You never needed their acceptance. All you ever needed was the truth. And now, the truth stands tall, unshakable, immutable. And you are free.